Hi, my name's Karina Walter and welcome to the Standard Newsroom. I'm here with Mayor Walter Sendzik for our monthly chat with the mayor. Welcome.
Welcome, it's great to be back. It's just after the March break, so it's exciting to be here.
You were surrounded by young people yesterday.
I was surrounded by young people, yeah. We had a youth forum at the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre. It's the first time we've held a youth forum. We had 150 kids from high school, university, and college, and they came together to talk about our city and their future. So this is their city, and we wanted to have their voice at the table to be able to tell us as a municipality, where do they see the opportunities in front of the city, and where do they want to see the city go into its future. So it was really exciting to be there.
You've had a couple of forums for older adults, and like you mentioned, this is the first youth one, if I can get my words out today. Was it worthwhile? Did you get any good ideas?
It was very much worthwhile. And so for the concept, for the viewers at home, what it was we had 4 themes: mental well-being, entrepreneurship, inclusive community building, and the third one was, and it's just coming, community engagement. So we had 4 pillars that we built the forum around, and then within each pillar, students were able to articulate or comment and discuss about how they feel about what is the city doing to promote and create better mental well-being. And one of the great things that came out of that one was creating more safe spaces. And it was interesting when we talked about what does a safe space mean? Well, a place in which young people can go and sort of just turn off their mind, and it's a safe space where they can be and hang out and just get away from the hectic life that surrounds all of us. And it was interesting because we have libraries, we have recreational centers, we have arenas, and so looking at that, we'll be able to take that back to staff and council and say, what can we do in our spaces that creates these mental wellness spaces? So that was a great light switch that went on. You're like, that's awesome. That's those are the kind of things that we wanted to hear from the young people, and there's many more ideas like that came out of the youth forum.
Were there any things that they said the city is doing really well right now?
Well, I think on the engagement side, what they want to see is youth want to get involved in the community, and there's a gap of how do they get involved. So at high schools, you have the volunteer programs where it counts towards your diploma, your graduation. So what is it that's in the community that they can be made more aware of for volunteer times? And we're going to work with the school boards to develop a better way to show what kind of community groups are out there, what are the resources that there are required. And what we got from this is that they really want to get involved in the community. They just want to know how. So they understand that there's a lot to do. They just want to be a part of and create more awareness on how to do it. And the other thing that they talked about is talking to them on their channels. And that's interesting because we're on the web right now, and this is a broadcast that we've been doing for a while with the Standard. They want to be communicated with on their channel. So it's Instagram, it's Snapchat, it's Twitter. How do we, as a city, better reach them in the places in which they're having communications? So that was another eye-opener for us. And so, there's a lot of work ahead for us, but I think this youth forum really does sort of set the path for where we need to go to ensure that we're engaging young people in how we build our city. It's really exciting.
So somebody actually wrote down some of the ideas that they brought forward, and then those will be going to council at some point?
Yeah, we had facilitators that were part of each pillar, and we had subject experts that were part of each pillar, so they were the ones getting the ideas out. And then what's happening is we're taking all that information and we're going to bring it back into a report that goes to council, and working with staff to quickly look at some areas that we can have some quick action, and then other areas that are more long-term planning and looking at how do we achieve the kind of ideas that the youth brought out yesterday. So it was actually really invigorating. I can say as a mayor leaving the event, it felt a lot of energy came out of that room. And so we need to do that on a more frequent basis, really harness that energy of the young people in our community, because it really is their city moving forward. We're just setting the stage for them to be able to continue to build our city into the amazing city that it is today.
So do you think there'll be another youth forum next year?
Oh, definitely. I think this is the start. We want to grow it. So our vision is that we'll continue to grow this. We had 150 students there yesterday. We want to get to 500 to 1,000 so that when we're doing this, we're really engaging youth and we're just driving that message that this is your city, this is your future. Tell us how you want us to build your city.
And when I wrote a story about the youth forum coming up a couple of weeks ago, one of our readers on Facebook asked, why aren't you having a forum for middle-aged citizens who are taxpayers? So I'm wondering what the idea was behind a youth forum and a older adults forum, and what about the people in the middle?
It's interesting because everyone wants to play their part. When it comes to youth, they largely don't feel a part of the community. They have their own little communities. They're at their schools, but they don't necessarily feel the part of the St. Catharines community. And so this is the first time that you're reaching out on a larger scale and saying, this is your city. For older adults, it's about planning the city so that it's safe for them, so that they see where we're going as a city for older adults, that it's accessible. For those of us who are working every day and we've got our heads down and we're raising a family and we're pushing our career forward, they also, my age demographic, the ones that are on Facebook, they let us know all the time about what we're doing right or wrong. They're very active in letting us know how they think the city should be built. So we have to put an emphasis on young people and older adults because they're the ones that tend to get marginalized when we have larger discussions about where community's going.
And when we're talking about youth, another big issue this week was the Jacobson St. Patrick's Day party, sort of the fallout from that. I know the city got a lot of calls from people on Jacobson. I'm wondering if you've met with Brock yet, or the police, or any of the other groups.
So we had an opportunity to meet with the Brock University Students Union, and so I met with them on Tuesday and we had a good conversation. That was a big part of the conversation, and again, they apologized. It's not something that they don't condone that kind of activity. They were embarrassed by it. So they reaffirmed their commitment to work with the community and work with the city. The NAG Regional Police and the fire department, they're meeting with Brock to get a better handle on this incident that took place. We don't want it to happen again. And it was a challenging day for St. Catharines. There are folks out there that were talking about the NRP and where was the regional police. It was a challenging day. For what had happened that day. There was a significant incident that happened in the city that diverted a lot of attention from the police away from this event. And that doesn't excuse what the students did, but from the policing perspective, immediately, almost around the same time as that event was taking place on Jacobson, you had a crisis in our city around a criminal activity. So you look at that, and you got to balance that, and that's what we're asking folks to do, is balance that. But moving forward, we got to make sure that that event doesn't even have an opportunity to get off the ground like that. So we're going to remind the Brock students on Jacobson that that kind of partying is not tolerated in those neighborhoods. And if you do, we'll come down with a heavy hammer, and you'll be ticketed, you'll be fined. We won't tolerate the garbage, and we're not going to tolerate that kind of mass grouping of people on a street and drinking excessively. So we're in partnership with Brock, and Brock agrees that is not the kind of activity that occurs in our community.
Right, and the city has a nuisance party bylaw open house coming up, I guess, or a public meeting on April the 10th to discuss that new law.
And that'll bring in even stronger bylaws that we'll then enforce. And again, it's everyone, we encourage our community to be an open community and a community in which people can celebrate, but it's not a community in which people can disrupt other people's quality of life.
So let's move over to transit, because you have a big meeting tonight, the regional transit meeting. What are you expecting to come out of that tonight?
Well, the three mayors and the chair have been working very aggressively on the intermunicipal transit file, and we've got a lot of people who are supporting it. And I think what will happen tonight is there will be a robust discussion to get to the triple majority, because tonight's discussion is about, does the region want to be a part of intermunicipal transit moving forward? And that requires a triple majority. Up until now, we've done pilot projects. That doesn't require triple majority. Now, to be in the game, in the transit business long-term as a funding partner even, you need that triple majority. So tonight's discussion is, do we want to be in? My position is yes, we need to be in this space. And doing this, we then need to trigger a triple majority. Then it goes back to the lower tier municipalities for consideration, and then it comes back up to the region for a final vote. So I think tonight will be a very positive step. It'll be an important step that we need to take for intermunicipal transit, and I think the councillors around the table have heard loud and clear from a whole wide network of groups, including Niagara College, Brock University, poverty reduction groups, community care, YW, YMCA, YWCA, all the different agencies, plus the businesses. They've all spoken up and said this is what we need, and we need this now. So I think it'll be a positive outcome.
We had a reader send us a question on Twitter about this. They said, when will we get regional transit connecting all 12 municipalities, not just Welland, St. Catharines, and Niagara Falls? Is that part of it? Or if you don't have a bus system now, do you get to be part of the regional transit system?
So where the model is going is exactly to what that individual was talking about. Is what we're doing now is we're bringing the three transit operators that currently exist together, and that creates better capacity to be able to then spoke out to other communities. And so Niagara Falls already provides a link to Fort Erie. We provide a link with Thorold. Welland provides a link with Port Colborne. So you already have some of those spokes in place. And what we think will happen under the consolidated model is then we'll be able to further reach out through intermunicipal transit with other municipalities that want to be in that space, that look at their travel patterns, the migratory patterns of their residents, and say, we need it. So we've had talks with Lincoln already. I know Grimsby's looking at it, West Lincoln. They're all saying, we want to be a part of the system. So once this consolidated model is in place, how does the other municipalities in the region help facilitate the rest of the link? So I'm hoping that once this is approved and we're able to move down towards a governance model, that you'll see a linked up Niagara in the next 5 years.
So it would be up to those municipalities to vote whether they wanted to pay to get into that service.
Or the region would be the partner at the table that would then use regional dollars to extend further into a Fort Erie or Wainfleet.
What's the timeline on that, do you think, to actually get the full service?
Full service of the region?
With all the spokes you're talking about.
I would like to say 5 years, and I say that as an individual who looks at the needs of transit. We can't continue to wait. It's not something that we can look at and go, well, maybe this is a 15-year horizon. I look at 5 years as the target date to have a linked up Niagara in whatever it looks like, but being able to show that someone from West Lincoln can get to Brock University without having to get on 6 different buses. And so that's our goal, is to make sure that we can put a map on top of Niagara of transit routes that shows that we're truly linked as a region through public transit. That's the goal.
Just before we finish up here, I just wanted to ask you about the tree management plan that came to City Council on Monday as well, because it seemed to be a pretty, it had a lot of ideas in there. They're talking about inventory of trees, talking about selling discounted trees to residents. What do you think of that plan and some of the major points on it?
Well, staff did a really good job of putting together a comprehensive tree management program, and we're looking at a tree bylaw. We currently don't have a robust public tree bylaw, so trees that are on public property, how they're treated by people, and what I mean by that, it hasn't been updated since 1970. So we've been in situations where trees have been cut down that have been on private property that have been cut down by private citizens. And we don't have robust bylaws to challenge that. So we're going to update our bylaws so that the public is much more aware of how important public trees are on our property, and that any damage done to them, there will be consequences. So that's that part of it, updating that bylaw. Then there's a consideration of a private tree bylaw, which is on private property. That's a lot more complex. And so what we may be looking at is diseased and dying trees and the hazards that they provide on private property. So currently there's no bylaw that if you have a dead tree on your property, you just leave it up and whatever happens, happens. We're looking at it saying there's got to be a way that the city can help ensure the safety of its citizens. So we may be looking at a bylaw that would address just that. There's others that want to go further and have a comprehensive private bylaw for trees and removal and all that associated, even if it's a living, healthy tree. That's much more complex. And then the other side of it is, instead of being punitive on trying to encourage people to plant trees and have a more robust tree canopy. Let's incent people on that. So some of the ideas is incenting people to purchase trees. We would subsidize as a city the purchase of trees, and they would then plant them in their on their property, in their backyards, in their front yards. And what we're trying to do is get up to a standard 30% tree canopy in the city. Right now we're about 16%, and a lot of that is because we've had to cut down trees due to the diseases of the emerald ash that wiped out a considerable percentage of public and private trees. So we're looking to grow that canopy, and this is one way of doing it, looking at bylaws to help strengthen and protect trees. So it's a comprehensive report, and the staff did an amazing job putting together something that can be challenging to get people's head around.
So it's all still in the works right now. The private bylaw would be coming back to council, and you guys would have to be discussing that.
Yes, it's still within the forest. We haven't seen the forest from the trees.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming in today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Looking forward to the next one, which will be
in April. Yes, you can join us again in April for our chat with the mayor, and you can send questions through Twitter with the hashtag #AskSendzik. Post them on our Facebook page or send them to me at kwalter@postmedia.com. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us.